Welcome to the Nightly 5 podcast with Belle Taylor.
Money, 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 must be funny in the rich man's world.
Baby boomers, the generation born between 1946 and 1964, are considered one of the luckiest groups in history. They grew up during strong economic growth, and while they might not all be rich, as an aggregate they've amassed great wealth. Around a quarter of the Australian population are boomers, but collectively they hold 53% of our national wealth. So why then, as they enter their golden years, are they not spending any of their money? Economists have long predicted a boomer-led spending spree as the lucky generation hit retirement, but that does not seem to be happening. Boomers are being accused of being stingy. They are not spending their money as predicted. Instead, they are trying to preserve or even increase it. This has led some economists to say that the issue for the economy in the 2020s and 2030s will not be why boomers are spending so much as anticipated. It will be why they are spending so little. Joining me now is the Nightly's personal finance expert and certified baby boomer, Nick Bruning. Nick!
Yes, I'm proudly taking the tag of being a boomer.
You
Now,
are.
Let me tell you.
You are. We're going to blame you.
Well, let me tell you, old habits die hard, and I think that's part of the problem here. What we've got to remember is that a lot of the boomers, their parents were very much brought up through World War II and beyond, and that was a time of, off the back of the Great Depression. I know we're going back nearly 100 years, but those habits that they learnt from their parents have been passed on very much to their baby boomer kids. So I can myself remember growing up in the 60s and 70s when money was tight, and so we made do with what we had, and we were very, very careful. And I think, as I say, I think that continues on through life. Those old habits stay with you. It wasn't until the mid-70s that the money became much more free. That's when we introduced the bank card. It's the predecessor to all those plastic things we have in our wallets and purses these days.
Well, these days we just tap a phone.
Well, exactly. And that's part of the issue is that, in my time when I was growing up, you would go to the bank and borrow money. Now they sell it to you, Bill. So,
Yeah.
It's the availability of credit and the availability of funds, I think, that's contributed to perhaps a different mindset in the younger generation that when you want it, you just go and get it. The notion of saving up for something is pretty much gone.
That's all very well, Nick, but you can't take it with you. Like, this is the time to spend
Well,
it.
that's what I was about to say. There's also a situation where we've got a lot of people, the boomers, inheriting significant wealth from their parents. So, they might have bought a 3x2 in a working suburb like Subiaco back then for, £5,000. Well, of course, a place in Subiaco is now worth millions of dollars, or any of those sorts of working type suburbs surrounding all of the Australian cities have got them. So we're talking millions of intergenerational wealth being inherited. And I think to some boomers, there's a sense that they also want to leave that on to the next generation as well. So you do find that they are generous, but it's not necessarily in spending it on themselves. I know a lot of people that have helped their kids out with a mortgage, and I'm sure Bill's probably hoping her mum and dad are listening to this. Where they'll be there to sort of back up, again, for sensible things. Like you find that the boomers aren't inclined to give kids money just to go and splash on trips and waste it, if you like. But if it's on something sensible like paying it off the mortgage or reducing debt, those sorts of things, many times you'll see that the boomer parents will help out the young ones. But beyond that, it's still a case of leaving some sort of foundation estate, call it what you like, for their kids and grandkids and beyond that, in fact, yeah.
Look, I don't mean to be rude here, Nick, but do you think...
No, be as rude as you like, but I'll throw it right back at you.
Look, do you think... Look, I'm an elder millennial. I believe that's what my title is.
Yeah.
Do boomers think they're going to live forever? Is that part of the problem?
There's a little bit of that, and I think that they are aware that life expectancies are growing on, and there's a sense of making sure that there's enough that they don't want to be a burden on their kids. So they absolutely keep funds there for things like aged care, whether it's going to an aged care facility, and even medications these days. I mean, we live in a fantastic country where we've got the pharmaceutical benefit scheme, where most of our life-saving medicines and stuff cost the boomers $7.70 a prescription. In other countries, of course, it's vastly different where they're paying thousands of dollars for some of these medications. But that said, certainly health costs and things like that is a factor in them wanting to preserve the money. I don't think it's about thinking for a moment they're going to live forever, but it certainly is about making sure that they're not a burden on their kids and grandkids and being comfortable. I think, most boomers will spend reasonable sums on themselves. I don't think, when they travel, most of the people I look after tend to fly, premium economy or something like that, rather than sitting down the back.
Premium economy. They control
business
53% of the nation's wealth.
Yes,
Tell them to splash out in business class.
There's still a little bit. Don't forget. They have I know they're regarded as stingy, but let's just call it thrift, Bill. It's thrift, they're going to be
Spend not,
careful
want
with their
not,
money.
better fly premium economy.
Well, that's right. And, you're talking to someone that doesn't buy anything from Coles unless it's got a yellow sticker on it.
Oh, well, that's just sensible. Look, you touched on this before. There are reports estimating that there's going to be around 3.5 trillion in assets transferred in Australia by 2050. That's sort of between the boomer generation to sort of younger generations. What kind of impact is that going to have on our economy?
Well, it's significant, and putting my economist hat on, I know that one of the thoughts out there at the moment is that as that money starts to come into the system, and we've got this sort of disproportion between young people, our birth rate, all those sorts of issues become a factor when we've got an older and ageing population. So things like services and stuff will be in greater demand. So carers, those sorts of things. And there's absolutely a thought out there that we'll see some increase in wage pressure as the number of people available to deliver those services is reduced, relatively speaking. So we could see some wage pressure, and that could in turn fuel inflation and interest rates. So, that's the bad side of things if they start spending the money. But at the moment, it's not happening, is it?
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of inspired. And I think it's caught a few economists out, to be honest, Bill. I think a lot of people thought they would be spending it, but it might very well be the next generation, dare I say it, which haven't had the influences of post-World War II thrift, where that money was reasonably freely available. As I mentioned before, the availability of credit sort of turned things around a little bit. So what we might see is that when my money eventually gets left to my kids and grandkids, that they will be the ones that tend to spend it.
They're just
on
going to
all
blow
those
it.
fun sorts of things.
They're going to blow it on caviar and champagne. all the
be that.
boomers' hard-earned money just gone in a generation.
Stop it. You're giving us nightmares. No.
So that bumper sticker, that spending the kids' inheritance bumper sticker you see on the caravans around, that's just a lie. We need to redo it, don't we?
It just doesn't happen. It's really interesting when we deal with people with money at retirement. So one of the things we speak about is work out your end plan. Is your end plan to spend the last dollar on the last day? Well, good luck to that. My best one is that you end up owing the bank $10,000 when you peg out. But beyond that, what most people will tell us is that they'd rather do what they want to do in retirement and then leave what's left for their kids. But interestingly enough, as you watch their investments going up and down, when they have a down period, perhaps when there's a bit of a market crash and they're sort of behind what they started with, they don't spend. They just simply don't spend. What they only spend is the profit. So when you get a run on the share market, they've made a few dollars. That's when they'll take out the profit and spend it on the big holiday. But you would be amazed how many people start retirement with a particular sum of money at say 65, and that's what they die with, exactly the same amount or very close to it. It's quite extraordinary how that happens.
Yeah, well, if you're listening and you're retired, go out, treat yourself to a fancy lunch.
Yes,
Is that the message today? Just be like,
Yeah, it is.
I'm
Look,
doing
and
it
I
for the
think-
economy.
Look,
More champagne.
Exactly, you're helping everyone. But look, I think it is a mindset thing, and I think it is important that boomers that are in a position where they do have some money, remember that, as you've said, you can't take it with you. It's about balance. It's about understanding too that as you get older into the latter years of retirement, some of the things that you might be putting off to do later, you just physically can't do. I use the line, things wear out and bits drop off. And they do. By the time you get into your late 70s and 80s, you're physically not able to do many of the things that you might be able to do
And
in your 60s.
You can have all the money in the world. Sometimes you can't replace
Exactly.
those bits.
And Bill, I know a lot of people that are literally getting more money in now which they can't spend. They literally can't spend. They don't
What
have the
a
physical
problem to
ability
have,
spend
Nick.
it. Well, it is, and it does become an issue, and so that's why, I'm very much in the camp that says spend it while you can, because you never know what's around the corner.
That's right. Thanks so much for joining me today, Nick. That's been great.
Pleasure.